Relocating in retirement or owning a second home sounds like a great idea. Planning ahead for such a major financial move is one of many important steps in building your financial roadmap for retirement. Lori Rowe has been selling real estate in the northwest suburbs of Chicago since 1986. During her 35-year career with Coldwell Banker, she has been ranked their #1 agent in Chicagoland and is ranked in the top 500 for Real G Corp in the United States. She has been featured in the Chicago Tribune, Sun-Times, Crane Chicago, Fortune Magazine, and USA Today, among others. She has loads of experience working with relocation and retirees. Lori, welcome to the Chicago Retire Wiser Summit.
Thank you, John. It's so fun to be here.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm very excited myself as I'm kind of approaching that stage myself. So there's some issues to think about as we approach retirement. And when it comes to a home, first thing, what are the most important things a homeowner can do to prepare their house for sale?
Well, John, if you were going to sell your car, what would you do? You'd like clean it and wax it and get a tune-up and take all your stuff out of it and make it smell good. Yep. And then you'd put it in the paper, right? So your house is not much different than that. You're trying to get somebody to write a big fat check. So you want you want to be the best house at the best price, and you want it to appeal to the broadest range of people. So whatever you can do to make it less personal, declutter, make sure all your mechanicals are in good working order. That's what you would do. I mean, you just want to show them a really great product. And
so do I need to do that before you come into my house and tell me what it's worth?
No,
okay.
No, I can see through all that.
All right.
So you want to, and so I do have a few ways to help you do that, but there's color, clean, and clutter. You want to make sure your colors are neutral. You have no clutter, and clean is the #1. There's a great saying. I went to a seminar in 1987, and Barb Schwartz said, if you can smell it, you can't sell it. So, and that is true. That is so true.
I've had one of those experiences looking for a home to buy. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, you have. And so you just want to, and a lot of times you don't see it because you see it every day, right? So you need a pair of neutralize or somebody else to come in and go, and once you start looking at your house as a product instead of where, you brought your baby home from the hospital and your grandparents enjoyed Christmas dinner at your table, you need to look, you try to step back and see how the rest of the world will perceive it. And I've heard that purging is very therapeutic.
Yes, and I can attest to that as I'm going through that myself. Yes.
Yes.
So what are the most requested features in today's market?
Well, today's buyers love hardwood floors. Carpet is not as popular as it once was. They are asking for more smart homes, where you can program things and you can be on vacation and control your heat and your air. They are asking for independent workspaces. And this is kind of a result of last year. I mean, we were heading towards a work from home environment in a lot of industries anyway, but it used to be, we want wide open spaces. And now it's like, no, I've got to have a place where I can work for 8 hours. And if the kids are doing e-learning, that was a big thing last year. So you need separate workspaces.
Okay, so I have a question. What does that actually look like? Because I know the open concept was really popular for many years.
Right.
Does that mean open concept with different spaces, or does it actually mean walls that separate?
I would say walls. I've seen it where there's a lot of new construction right now where there's almost, I call it command central area off the kitchen. And maybe it's just an area with counters and bulletin boards and seating. The kids can be on their computers or the parents can be in there working. I mean, the traditional study has not gone out of style at all. Everybody wants a study where they can have their desk and all that. And it could be a bedroom. You never know. And so I think There's some places where it's okay to have your desk, sitting in the living room, but every room should have one dedicated purpose for when your house is on the market. So you don't want to have too many things going on in the same living space.
Okay.
And the other thing that's been super important is outdoor living space, because, people want to be able, like last year, my houses with swimming pools flew off the market, and they want to be able to go outside. And the whole shutdown really helped the suburbs, because when people were quarantining in really tight spaces, they wanted more room to roam, and it made them feel uncomfortable to be so, I guess, cloistered with other beings all the time, and elevators and things like that. And so I think that the whole idea of having a nice yard or place to walk, near parks and where you can get out there and walk, was really important. We're seeing more fire pits and paper patios and decks and things like that, outdoor grilling stations.
So what if you don't have anything like that with your home, but you have a little space, you could create that? Is it recommended then to try and create a space if you don't have anything?
Well, you don't want to make it look contrived. I mean, that's why we're here. We go in and say, well, because you're always looking for your hook. Every house I walk in, both my husband and my daughter write songs, and songs always have to have a hook, right? Or nobody's going to listen to them. So in a house, what's your hook? Like, what are we going to go, oh my God, this house is so great. If it's storage, great. We'll make sure everybody knows about the storage. If they don't have a really amazing outdoor living space, then we're not going to talk about it. Let them come over. I mean, you want to, if there's a way we can at least say, hey, if you want to do this option's available. But you want to find what people care about: kitchens, family rooms, and primary bedrooms. So if you can get those three areas as good as possible, and then we can work on the others. But that's really what people care about. And the only other thing that I would say that I've been getting requests for is a main level bedroom, bathroom. Oh. So if there's a full bath on the main level, we're seeing more multi-generational households. We're seeing more people where like, oh, I don't want to not have a big house because who knows what could happen, right?
Yeah.
But I want to, if I can't do stairs, I want to be able to stay on the main level. Or if I have to move my mom in, I need to have a main level full bath. So that's been interesting in a little bit higher end single family homes. People are wanting that full bath on the main level.
Okay. Wow. You have a lot of good ideas. So what should sellers look for when selecting a real estate broker?
Well, when people have been surveyed on this, right? Why did you pick your realtor? So we'll start from that angle and then we'll go the other direction. And the most common responses are, one, I like them, and two, they had a track record. Mm-hmm. So, one is subjective, one is objective. And, the realtor is the person that's going to represent your property, which is most likely your biggest investment, to the rest of the world. And it used to just be the other brokers and the buyers, but now it's the entire cyberspace, right? So who's going to look at what you have, and because it's your baby, and your baby is not ugly, your baby's beautiful. Who's going to tell the rest of the world how beautiful your baby is, and say it with sincerity? And if that doesn't work, they can pivot and figure out another way to make sure everybody knows how beautiful your baby is. Yeah. And you just want somebody who's super positive. I would say feedback I've received is accessibility. It's really important to be able to get a hold of your realtor. It is an emotional thing. Even though it's a business thing, emotion comes into play, and you want somebody that's reachable. You want somebody who you feel is like going to protect your investment, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're playing it fast and loose with the money game, right, and they're going to do that on your house. I've had realtors call and tell me, oh, they're super motivated, just bring me anything. And, unless the seller told me to say that, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, bring me an offer, we'll make it work. And you need somebody who's really creative. And I've had people sniff around, come look at a house 5-6 times. And the other realtor is like ready to scream because they've shown these people hundreds of houses and They're just exhausted. So I've even said to my seller, hey, let's write them an offer and give them a deadline. And because I know you're really tired of driving around the block, so they can come back one more time to look inside the oven or to see how much space is in the laundry room between the wash tub and the washer. So we've done that, and it worked. It was like once we finally put it in writing and said, here, this is what we're willing to do. Can you agree to it? And so you just have to always put yourself in their shoes and think, how can I drag this guy over the finish line? And then how do I keep him engaged? Because, right now with offers going higher than list price, you're getting a lot of terminated contracts because the buyers get wrapped up in the frenzy and they pay cash and they pay way over list. And then they show up for the inspection. They're like, oh my God, what did I do? Right. So you have to keep them super engaged and make sure they realize they made the right decision. And if they didn't, you extricate yourself gracefully and move on and never skip a beat. And you never miss a second online with the advertising and the marketing and calling all the brokers, and, there's so many ways to blast it from the mountaintops out there. And that's what's kind of made it fun for us with social media and with the internet advertising. So
it sounds like there's actually a lot of work that goes into being a real estate agent and representing. So I know some people have the idea, I just put my house on the internet and it'll sell. It sounds like it doesn't work that well. It's not that easy.
My mother said that to me when my father passed away and we were putting her townhouse on the market, which was part owner. And she's like, why are you doing all this? I thought we just stick a sign in the ground and somebody comes over and they buy it, and I'm like, because it's a price war and a beauty contest and you got to win them both. And so, it's so true. You want an agent that you feel comfortable with. And the one thing I can't stress enough is you're partners, you're a team. It's not you against your realtor. And it's easy to get frustrated when your house is for sale and all these people come and look at it and they don't make an offer or they write feedback that you really wish you didn't hear. You just have to say, okay, what are we going to do now? Or is this really worth getting upset about? This is one guy in 10 and he's not even from our area. So he might not know what this market is like. So you just have to always you rely on the agent's experience and you want somebody that calls all the other brokers and says, are you getting any showings, or what kind of feedback are you getting? Or, do you want to do something together where we can put all of our houses up at the same time and try to get some traction going here?
Oh, interesting.
You want to all work together. And that's because, when that seller or buyer goes away, I'm still stuck working with all these realtors. and so we all have to, I always say when the market got bad, the good guys stuck together, and it was really exciting. It was fun because we all want to see each other succeed. It's not it's a competitive business, but it's also, you have to work together or you're not going to get it done.
Okay. Well, I have several neighbors that have been in the process and selling their homes. And I know of a couple of deals that have fallen through because of price and the home's not appraising out. So first question is, how accurate are the home value estimates that are provided on real estate sites?
That's a good question. And I can tell you that one in particular has created thousands of hours of work for me because and really what those sites are doing is they're creating an algorithm that uses public information, that's in the assessor's website, and they're feeding it through an algorithm and spitting out a price. They don't know where it was located. They don't know if it backed up to a park or high tension wires. They don't know if it was filthy and hadn't been updated since 1970, or everything in the house had been replaced. They don't know if it was a nasty divorce where the judge said they had to get rid of it, or if it was somebody who really created a masterpiece and sold it at just the right time. So
how do you determine where a home should be priced at?
I think there's a lot of answers to that, and it's probably a combination. So first, when I walk into a house, I'm human, right? I have a gut reaction, like, oh, $599, and totally non-scientific, based on one person's experience and what they've done recently. And so that's not, you can't do that only. Second is just like an appraiser would do. They're going to look at what sold most recently and how your property compares. So that house had a walkout basement, yours doesn't. That house had a 3-car garage, yours doesn't. Your house backs up to a beautiful park, theirs backs up to a highway. And so there's a lot of plus and minuses that come into play. And, there's not hard and fast values you can assign to each one, but it's a good range you can come up with. And then, but the most important way to figure out how to price your house is market position. So we could make a case that nobody could recreate your house for $1 million, right? It's just impossible. But are you going to get $1 million? Maybe not. So you have to say what's on the market right now so that I compare the most favorably. So that if there's a buyer out there looking, I get into the lineup for that day of house tours and I'm the best house at the best price. So it's just like if 10 people are in line at the store and only 3 get to check out every month, what do I need to do to get to the front of the line? And, it's not replacement value. It's what the current market can bear based on what's happened most recently. And that's why you need an agent, because it changes all the time. I mean, because of all the staging and prep work that we're doing, I'm having people sign listing contracts with TBD on the price, because I said, until we launch, we'll decide like the day before you go on the market where your price should be.
Wow.
Because we wanted, because things happen all the time. Or like maybe I had a house in Long Grove where there was a super high price across the street. It sold right away. We launched ours. That deal fell apart and came back on the market. But we priced it really, like, I thought it was very competitively, and we sold immediately. And that house is still available because they had something go wrong, but we based our price. I go, well, that house has this, this, and this. We should price just below it at this. And so it just all depends, what's going on. And not everybody, not every list price is going to be, maybe you don't hit the sweet spot right out of the gate. So you just have to be willing to adjust and to match your market.
I also know that inspections can sometimes blow up a deal. So is it wise to have your home professionally inspected prior to listing it?
I really have had great success with that plan. And some people, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, why? And the reason I did it was during when the economy was really soft and people were like having to compromise on their price and they didn't feel that good about it. And so we'd go through the whole process. We'd finally find a buyer. They'd take a little less than they were expecting. And then the buyer would do a home. And just as they were starting to wrap their mind around, okay, I'm moving on. I've done it. I've made peace with it. The buyer comes along, does a home inspection and like runs them over with a truck again. And so why put yourself in that position if you don't have to?
Right.
So the reason I would, and I think even now in the better market, it's important because you know what you've got. And if you do a home inspection and you're going to find something in every house in America, I don't care if it's 1 year old or 100 years old, you can address things so that the buyer doesn't. And you can address it on your budget, your timetable. You can use whoever you want to fix it. I mean, I don't recommend jerry-rigging things that are code violations, but you can decide how you want to handle it. If you wait for the buyer to find it, they're going to, I want licensed contractors. I even want you to use this company. I want a paid invoice. I want to have my inspector come back and check it. And, so it's really saved my clients a lot of time and trouble and stress. And that has, and you don't have to share that report with anyone. I mean, it's your property. You paid for it. So you don't even have to show it to me. But I would just like to know that at least what we are selling here appears to be in good working order.
So what type of inspection issues tend to derail a sale? What are the big ones? What are the ones that the buyer doesn't want to have to deal with?
That's a good question. I would say mold is a biggie. It's a 4-letter word. And there's mold in every house, and most mold is not toxic, but mold is mold and people don't like it. And I would say the most common places we see mold is in attics. And that's because until, I don't know, maybe early 90s, a lot of villages allowed you to vent bathrooms into attics.
Yeah.
And you got a hot, dark space that's enclosed and you're shooting moist, hot air up there. What's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so if you let the buyer find that, some buyers will just walk. They won't even talk about it. My kid has allergies, or I heard mold is bad. And that's too bad, right? Because it could be a great house otherwise. So a lot of times, or you could have the people that say, I have to have these air quality tests done and I need samples sent to the state lab. And I'm going to have these guys come in hazmat suits and then you get up there and you see it, it's like this big. And, I'm not minimizing it, but it's like, oh my God. And so, there's a lot of different ways to remediate mold. So you want to, if you have it, there's one neighborhood that I do a lot of business in where this situation occurred with the time of construction. So we've removed it. And so if you wait for the buyer to come, then they're going to go, now you got to vent your bathroom out through the side of the house because we don't want a recurrence of this problem. Yeah. So this way you're at least in more control. I think the biggest thing that sellers are uncomfortable with is how they feel like things get out of their control because now they've jumped on this sale train and you've got all these other people trying to tell you what to do. And you've been living there happily for 25 years and never had any of these problems. So you're trying but yeah, so mold is a biggie. I would say really old HVAC, if you have a really old furnace, air conditioner, and hot water heater, you can't really ask the seller to replace them if they're working. But if they're nearing the end of their useful life, and you could say, well, I'll buy you a warranty, but you really got to read the fine print. I just had a deal fall apart near your house, John, where it was all original, like 26 years old. And I looked into I had the buyer and I looked into the warranty. Well, I said to the realtor, who was the homeowner, I said, do you have your annual service records? Because that would help me show the buyer that even though it's not broken, it's working and it's been annual. She goes, oh no, I only call when something's wrong. And I'm like, So, and then the warranty that my guy was looking at wouldn't cover it. So it was just a weird thing, and so you just have to be it's speculation. And the other thing I've had kill a lot of deals or make them get very uncomfortable are roofs, because roofs feel like a subjective thing. Like it's not leaking and, but it looks pretty bad. And that's a hard thing to get excited about spending a lot of money on. And especially a cedar shake roof, which there's a lot of those in our market and they're very, very expensive. And unless you can get it covered by insurance for a hailstorm, which I think we had one a year and a half ago. So I think roofs can be a slippery slope, pardon the pun, but it's just like, who wants to buy, does the buyer want to buy it bad enough to take on the risk, or does the seller want to sell it enough to offer some sort of credit to cover the impending replacement?
Okay. Well, let's go on to a more fun topic, staging.
Okay. Staging.
Why is staging so important?
Well, staging is important because you are trying to appeal to the broadest audience possible, right? So you want to have your house, think about a model home. What does it look like? It's not cluttered. All the colors are harmonious. There's no personal, like a stack of bills and a bowl of keys and dog food. Why do models look like that? Because they appeal to the broadest range of people. And now because if 98% of today's buyers use the internet to start their home search, most of them say that photos are the most important thing. So now you're taking pictures of your personal living space and blasting it all over the internet.
Yeah.
And you want it to appeal to the most people possible. So it's staging is kind of an umbrella term. You could do everything from renting furniture and accessories and painting and doing all that to just, hey, let's move a few of your things around, take some stuff out, and just make it look as good as possible. So I have 2 stagers on my team. I added them about 5 years ago. And one of them, I had known her I used to be her boss. I was her first boss when she graduated from college. Yeah. And this is kind of her passion, right? And so she said, I want to work for you again. I want to stage your house. So I said, okay. So we sort of did it on a casual basis, but now we've made it very formal and very official. And so I'll take pictures of the house ahead of time and I send it to them. And I say, what is it going to take? Like, how many hours do you think you need? And does the homeowner need anything else to make it pop? And they will shop for them for a nominal hourly rate. And then they charge an hourly rate to use the seller's belongings.
Okay.
So that's been most of the people we deal with, their stuff is very nice and they have a really nice house. And they will also recommend paint colors. If they go, well, I'm willing to paint this, what should it be? And they know exactly what to paint it. So that, and I, like, part of my marketing program is I cover like 1 or 2 hours of professional staging with 2 people. And then if you decide to keep them after that, then, you can hire them and take care of it. Because then, and a lot of my sellers will say, when I move, will you come to my next house before I put all my stuff out? Because you did such a great job making this place look good. I want to start out this way on the other end.
Yeah.
And, but staging is it's critical because there's, buyers see what they see, not the way it's going to be. And like I said before, it's color, clean, and clutter. And you only get one chance. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. Right. I mean, it's all those things, like when they walk in, I had them go to a house recently and they said it smells like cigarette smoke. And so we took care of it. Like, we did all the things we needed to do to get rid of it. And, and they can say that because this is their passion and they keep up on all the trends. They know what people like and what will play the best in the current audience, and that stage, and then I've had 2 houses where we hired another staging company that brings in furniture and accessories. And that's pretty cool too. And some of them, one of them even has somebody like live in the house with the staging stuff, turn on all the lights for the showings. I mean, it's like a service. And if you agree to work with them, they'll do new photos. Like, I had a house, it was a beautiful townhome that was completely renovated. And it was vacant because they had bought it and done all this to it, and it wasn't moving. And I was the second broker. And this lady called me. She said, if you let me take all the stuff out of this place that's nearby and install it in your listing, I'll cut your sellers a great deal. I'll do all new photos and I'll professionally clean the house at the beginning and the end. And it was 2 brothers. It was their mother's place and she had passed away, and they're like, fine. And one of them was out of state. So we did it. It sold in 5 days.
Wow. Okay. So yeah. I might not have to swap out all of my stuff for all the stuff the stager wants, but if I have an empty place, that could really be a good way to go. Okay.
Right. Okay. You could spend $100 or $10,000 on staging, but I would say you don't need to spend $10,000.
All right. So let's go on to financing. And how does a seller know if a prospective buyer is qualified when they walk in the door? Is that's someone they want to work with? Well,
when I started, we used to finance our own buyers. We used to qualify our own buyers with our TI2 calculator. Like, we would ask their income and their debts, and And nobody does it anymore, right?
Okay.
So before we take out buyers, and we all know which agents play it fast and loose and don't pre-qualify their buyers, and we know who we can trust. And so before I take somebody out, I'm taking a guy out for the first time on Sunday. He works with my son-in-law, and I said, I need to know that you're qualified. And so when you don't really know when they come to see it the first time if they're qualified. It's not common to say, before you look at this $300,000 house in Hoffman Estates, I have to have a pre-qual letter, because that would be overkill, right? So you have to have a certain amount of faith and hope that people are only taking around people that can get loans. But when they make the offer, if they're getting a mortgage, you need a letter from a lender, a reputable lender, that says that they've checked their credit, and based on, their assets and their income and their debt ratio or whatever, they are qualified to spend X. And, it's some pre-qual letters are not worth the paper they're written on, and some are very, very thorough, and we know that they're very genuine. And with all the cash offers, you need proof of funds. So, that could be anything from email, scanning your account statement with the account number redacted, to a letter from your portfolio manager saying, this guy has sufficient assets to purchase this property. Sometimes they're very specific, sometimes they're very vague, but, and that's where you pick up the phone and say, what do you think? Is this person, can they follow through on this sale? So,
yeah. Okay. So now let's move on to the second home. It's not uncommon for people we work with to want to own a second home in retirement. So what should you consider when buying a second home, and particularly in a different state, which is usually how that goes?
Right. So I think that this opens the door to a lot of questions. Like, are you buying somewhere that you've been vacationing for the last 25 years, so you know the area? Or did your person at the gym say, this is a really great town, you should go buy a house? So I think that's a big part of it, because, it's just like when I have a transferee for 2 days and they have to buy a house in 48 hours. It's like a crash course in geography and schools and shopping and doctors and whatever. So it depends how well you know the area and if you're comfortable investing your money there. I think it's extremely important to get a realtor that you're very loyal to in the other location, because if it's a snowbird place, like these agents, they get jerked around all the time. Like, somebody's in town and they're having a great time on the month that they rented this house on the beach, and let's buy. Okay. Then they run this person ragged for 3 days, and then they go back home and they get back into their life and they forget all about it. And these agents tell me, like, people will do this anywhere from 2 to 10 years in a row. And they have to, they got to be ready when they're in town, and they got to show them. But once they get on that plane or in that minivan to drive home, they don't know what's going to happen. So I would get a really strong partner on the other end. That's what I have a second home that's, I don't go to it that much, but I have realtors there that I've been loyal to, since 1993. So just because I know what it feels like. The other thing I see a lot of people doing is whichever house you're not at, whether it's in Chicago or Florida, you have to pay somebody to check on it every week. And this is a big issue where people think, oh, I can get away with it, or I'll just tell my neighbor if he sees something weird to call me. No, it's so worth, like, I have this guy, he charges a minimal fee per week, walks through, makes sure nothing's leaking, everything's flushing, the smoke alarm isn't going crazy, the sump pump hasn't gotten clogged. And it's the best money you could ever spend. And, and then before you get home back to your here, or you go there, they can open it up for you. And that it just makes all the sense in the world. The other thing I've heard is wherever you're going to go, when in Rome, right? So it's, I guess, a common phenomenon that people from the Midwest will go to the desert or the beach or wherever and try to make it look like the Midwest in their house. And so I think there's a way to, have a happy compromise where it could look, it fits in with the area. And the other, that's a great point too, is are you just going to buy this place, live here for a couple of years and then get a bigger place and just retire here full time? That's a whole different formula than I'm going to buy this place. My kids can deal with it after I'm gone. And so, you have to decide what's your long range plan for this property. And are you going to have a lot of visitors? A lot of people, I don't want to put too much money into it. And then they're miserable because they have a 1 or 2 bedroom place and everybody keeps visiting them during the winter. Yeah, so, right. That's become an issue. And, you really got to be aware of what all the costs are. And if you're doing this, and John, this is a question for you, but I've had a lot of clients who they're getting ready to sell their business and they move to Nevada or Florida, and there's like specific rules about how many days they have to live there. So right. Because they're a more tax favorable state. And, and you've got to be really careful with that. You got to be able to prove that you were there that long. But so I think that's what I've seen as issues with my clients. And I've had people that they moved away from here, like they sold their 4-bedroom colonial. Their kids were starting college and they bought like a little townhouse just so they'd have an Illinois base. Yeah. This happened numerous times. And then 2 of them moved to California. One of them moved, Arizona. And now that they are retired, they do want to be back here because this is where their family is. Mm-hmm. So last summer, I sold 2 of those townhouses and then sold them a beautiful house that has all the things they want for their new phase of life. And so that's common, I would say.
And it's interesting because when we put together the financial roadmap for retirement, we start with what's most important in terms of where they want to live, and then back into the financial side of it. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's so many things to consider, and there are so many different ways to do this. Some clients want to buy the second home for where they want to eventually fully retire to. Some people want it just temporarily to do the snowbird thing. And some people, it's trying it out. And so what would you say to those people that are not quite sure where they want to go and they want to try out an area for a while? Should they rent for a year?
That's what I've seen a lot of my people do, where they go and they rent for the winter and they see if they like it. And, because if they've lived in one place for 25 or 30 years and they've established this whole lifestyle, it's a big adjustment, to completely go to all new everything, especially, the older you get, the more set you get in your ways. Mm. And, and a lot of people, they want to be a member of a club, whether they play golf or tennis or they want to have a pool, whatever it is. And, they just need to know what all the expenses are that are associated with it. And are they comfortable with the crowd down there? Yeah. So, there's a lot to think about. And I think you do have to have a little bit of a cushion monetarily because, if anything goes wrong and you're not there, you're going to have to rely on others to make big decisions for you or to guide you the right way. Yeah. And there's additional cost associated with that, with having somebody else make your decisions or help you with that.
And all these issues really point to why it's so important to start planning for this early, especially if someone isn't sure where they want to go. It's going to take several years to determine where that might be. Maybe even find, establish a network of professionals, as you mentioned, a good real estate agent and others who can help if you're going to do the snowbird thing.
Right.
Thinking ahead can really help when it comes to the real estate purchases.
Well, and you can visit people. Like most people go somewhere because they know somebody that's already there.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there's the Naples contingent, then there's the Scottsdale contingent, and then there's the Palm Desert people, and I've had friends retire to Michigan, and they're happy as clams.
Yeah.
And the new big destination I'm finding is Tennessee, both Knoxville and Nashville.
Okay. That answered one of my questions, because I was going to ask what's hot right now. I know I have a few that have just done the South Carolina, Georgia thing. So
right. And Colorado. Okay. I've had a few clients move, do Colorado, and I see them on Facebook hiking and kayaking and having the time of their life. So that was the right decision for them.
Right.
Yeah, those seem to be the most common destinations, at least for people. And then I also Lake Geneva. I've had that lately. Right. Yeah. So.
Well, this has been great. A lot of good information here, Lori. But I don't want to go without finding out a little bit more about your volunteering. I know you love to volunteer. So tell me about Special Spaces.
Oh, well, I'm on the Coldwell Banker Charitable Foundation Board, and we help housing charities. And so throughout the year, we get asked to go to events or represent at certain, outings or whatever. And the one that sort of has really resonated with me and pulled my heartstrings is one called Special Spaces. And Special Spaces is, it's a group of people that will take a child's room, and the child's either chronically or terminally ill. So they're spending a lot of time in their bedroom, and completely transform it to embody all the things that kid loves. Oh, wow. So if they love Legos, or they love Star Wars or princesses, or, whatever it is that they, chess, they make this room, it's like the coolest room in the world, right?
Yeah.
And they work with the parents and the child, and they get donations, and they plan it, and it's very professional, and they show up, they all get out, and they boom, boom, boom. And by the time they leave, they bring the little kid back in, and they're, and the whole family is in tears, and it's a beautiful thing. But it's just, and I guess it's because I've heard so many of their stories, and I've seen, kids who've actually, they're thriving now, but they had they had leukemia their entire, age 4 to 16 or something, where they were dealing with it, and now they're fine. But it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's great. It's great to hear about that giving back. And again, I really appreciate the advice that you have given, and for being part of this summit. It's a lot of fun doing this, and we really have enjoyed having you on. I appreciate you coming by and doing this for us, Lori.